Well, welcome. Thank you for taking the time out to watch this webinar on what I'm calling love without losing your mind. That's right. Love without losing your mind. And just want you to know it's great to have you come and be a part of this. I hope that if you're single, you'll find some benefit to this in terms of what are healthy people, personally and interpersonally, in terms of relationship skills. If you're dating, you can determine whether you're in a healthy relationship with a healthy, mature person. And if you're married, you can also for sure find out am I in a healthy relationship with somebody that's a healthy. We're going to take a look at that in this webinar today. And I hope that you will find this as a value to you. What I'm going to do here, this is my first webinar ever. I am recording it, just so you know. And I am going to see about going ahead and getting my screen share up here so that we can go ahead and put this up here for you. So real quickly here, the webinar overview. This webinar is being recorded, I just said a minute ago, and will be placed on my YouTube channel and other social media outlets. And participant audio and video has been disabled. So if you are on Zoom watching this rather than through Facebook, then the chat icon, you can you can send me a message. I'll be looking for that, as well as if you have a question and answer, you can send a question and answer, and I will try to get to that. Got a lot to cover. All right, so let's kind of move into this webinar. I call this Love Without Losing Your Mind. This is a part of our Relate Well Institute training seminars that we're developing to put out across the world on healthy relationships. If you want to find out more about me and the work that I do and the services that I provide, particularly to the faith community, go to drrickmarks.com. And if you are wanting to learn the Relate Well curriculum in your own home, go to relatewell.us, and there's 4 options for you. There's a Relate Well core, which is for single people, dating, married, anyone who wants to learn the core curriculum in their own home. We actually teach emotional regulation skills, communication skills, how to bond, the 10 relational needs that lead to bonding and attachment. That's there. If you're a therapist and you want to learn how we use Relate Well in couples therapy, there is a online training for you there as well. National Marriage Seminars provides 9 CEUs for that training. If you're in the faith, if you're a church wanting to learn how to bring in Relate Well to training marriage mentors, a lot of churches use Relate Well for mentor couples in their own church. And then, of course, if you're a business or a leader, we actually have adapted Relate Well leadership, where we actually teach emotionally healthy leadership. I want to give a little acknowledgement here to some colleagues that I've kind of learned from, and this is information from them integrated into mine. Of course, Dr. John Bennett, who wrote that book, How to Avoid Marrying a Jerk. Dr. Les Parrott, in the Christian world, he's a clinical psychologist, but in the Christian world, very well known and respected. This is some of his work from his book, Safe People. And of course, my great teacher, mentor, Lori Gordon. You know, many people enter into relationship to relationship. They keep going to the same old kinds of people. They keep finding addicts. They keep finding abusive people. Why is that? Why is that? Well, a few proverbs for it. This is an old German proverb that says, "He who once burned his mouth always blows the spoon." Folks, you learn if you blow it first. You don't want to go burn your taste buds, right? You want to burn your tongue. Here's an old Yiddish one. Everyone is kneaded out of the same dough, but not baked in the same oven. You know, you've got to be able to experience people long enough to determine if they're really healthy. And another one here is no one tests the depth of the river with both feet. No, you don't. You kind of step into it gradually, and that allows you to determine if this person is safe. So, question for those in the faith community: are God's people safe? Are God? And the answer is no. No. I mean, God had problems with his own children. Look here. He says that his children were far away in Isaiah 29:13. In Joshua 22:16, he says they're unfaithful. Deuteronomy 8 and Psalm 36, he says they're proud and perfectionistic. 1 John 4:20 says they're unloving. Romans 2:1, he says they're judgmental. Just because a person is involved in the faith community doesn't make them safe, doesn't make them healthy, doesn't make them mature. The key word we're going to be focusing on all throughout this webinar. If you want to love well and you want to love and keep your mind, you got to be mature and you got to find mature people. We're going to talk about that. You know, people say today, well, I've married a jerk or she's a jerk. Well, what is a jerk? Well, you know, here's some definitions of jerk. Jerk means being selfish, but not all selfish people are jerks. Let's be honest about that, okay? Jerk means exhibiting any selfish thoughts, behavior that are ultimately harmful to someone else. In other words, you could be such a jerk that your thoughts and behaviors actually hurt other people. That's another definition of jerk. But what we're going to do in this webinar, we're going to use the one that Dr. John Van Epp gives in his book, which I really like. He says a jerk is a person who has a pattern, keyword is pattern, of problematic behavior that make it difficult to be in a relationship with them. And this is key, where your ability to grow and be intimate is hindered. In other words, it's not just people have problematic behavior, because every one of us has problematic behaviors. The key here, it's a pattern of problematic behavior. It's ongoing. It's a pattern. Why? Not why, but why is the pattern a problem? It's a problem because your ability to be in a relationship with them, your ability to be in a relationship with them, inhibits your ability to grow and be intimate. It inhibits your ability to mature. If you're in a relationship with someone, and the longer you're in that relationship with them, your ability to grow, mature, become a stronger person emotionally, think for yourself, emotionally. You might be in a relationship with a jerk or a jerkette, or you might be the jerk or jerk. All right. So, you know, it's a difference. There's a difference between acting like a jerk and being a jerk, right? I wrote here the difference between acting like a jerk and being a jerk. Everyone makes mistakes and does things wrong. You are open to change and improvement. And this is an essential quality for a growing, mature relationship, all right? Basically, immature people, jerks, resist change. Overly defensive people are limited in their ability to grow. You see, the Bible says we're to disciple others. Well, the term disciple literally means to means to learn. And all those who are disciplers must also be discipled. So every person who's a teacher must also be a student. Every person that teaches must also be a learner. And we never stop learning. We never stop growing. And we need to be able to think about ourselves and learn about ourselves as well, not just others. So one thing I think we need to learn is, how do other people see you? How do other people see you? I have a phrase on my work. It goes like this: the way you think you come across is not the way that you do come across. The way you believe you're being experienced is not the way that you are being experienced. And what really happens is people defend how they think they are and believe they are. But in the end, it's how you are that matters, you see, because people's experience of us is different. You need to know how other people see you, which means we need insight into ourselves. It's called self-awareness, and self-awareness and self-management are the two personal competencies that are essential for emotionally intelligent people. Now, what do you need insight into? You need insight into yourself. What are your strengths? What are your limitations? Are you open to seeing yourself through another person's perspective? Why are you acting the way that you're doing? Are you aware that you're acting a certain way that you are? You see, you need to have self-awareness and insight to yourself. Why? So that you can have self-control, so you can have self-management, you see? And why is it important for me to see myself the way that other people see me? Because the way I think I come across is not the way I do come across. We are limited in our realm of knowledge, and other people see our blind spots. And if we're teachable, that's the key word, if we're teachable, then we might learn some things about ourselves that we didn't know that we didn't know, right? So is it possible, and I'm 58 years old, you know, sitting here today, is it possible, though, to be an chronological adult and emotionally not an adult? And the answer is yes. As a matter of fact, you know, we're asking the question here, what is your level of emotional development? Are you emotionally an infant, emotionally a child, emotionally an adolescent, or emotionally adult? And we're going to take a look at these, because if you're in a relationship with someone, or if you're dating someone, pursuing someone who's really an emotional infant, child, or adolescent, you're not going to have a healthy relationship. And let's be honest, chronological infant, children, and adolescents are all great to be around when they're getting their way. But the moment they don't get their way or get their needs met, this is when the Darth Vader part shows up. All right. So then let's talk a little bit about what is an emotional infant. So here, the chronological infant feels a need, but is not able to communicate beyond a cry. It must wait for the parent to determine and meet the needs, becoming very angry if the parent is absent or attentive. The chronological adult who remains an emotional infant treats other people like objects to meet their needs. In other words, they basically say this: I want what I want when I want it, and you're just an object. Give me what I want. But these people are tyrants. They get you to do things through intimidation. All right. Teamwork and relationships will not last with these kinds of people. Why? Because they are the center of the world. And because they're the center of the world, you're just an object floating around their world, kind of like you're the ring around Saturn, and everything that you do is really for them. Right. And rarely do people have long-term intimate with emotional. Now, children, you can be an emotional child. Chronological children can communicate need, but they're still dependent on adults to respond. Child acts out feelings of pain, fear, and resentment if their needs are not met because he or she is not an adult enough to openly discuss and negotiate them. In other words, chronological children don't have the adult capacity to negotiate. However, adults who are emotional children act out these feelings through distancing, pouting, whining, clinging, deception, withholding, placating, manipulating. The emotional child does not present their honest and their adult ability to negotiate. Sadly, this is what I was when I first got married, and I had to grow up after I became a chronological adult. Now, you can be an emotional adolescent. Here, that is emotional adolescent. The chronological adolescent is in rebellion against parental authority, and in fact, is saying, "Don't tell me what to do." They're trying to figure out independence versus dependence, but they have to learn interdependence. And if you tell a child, if you tell an adolescent to do something, their brain tends to hear it as an attack against their autonomy, their independence. They feel like you're treating them like a child. That's why they put distance between you, teach you like, don't tell me what to do. You're not going to control me, because everything they hear is if you're criticizing them. All right. The emotional adolescent cannot give others what they want without feeling controlled or resenting it. Whatever the partner asks for is experiences control. It feels like you're being treated like a child. Thus, the emotional adolescent cannot give what is wanted. When emotional adolescents do give what is wanted, they do it with resentment. The capacity for mutual concern is really largely. What is a healthy, mature adult? Here we go. Emotional adults are able to negotiate the fulfillment needs of others, taking all needs into account. Why? Because they move to humility. And in humility, they move to compassion and cooperation. This person is capable of mutual concern, not only of expressing and acting on their own behalf and taking responsibility for their own behavior and happiness, but also caring how it is for another and nurturing the relationship within the ability to make it fulfilling for both. They believe in cooperation. They believe in that, look, the relationship has to win. They value the us more than the me. All right. They understand that living for we is a higher way of living. Living for me is simple. You don't think about it. It's primal. It's animal. But to live beyond yourself for relation, that requires maturity. Adults know that. Adults can be with someone in their emotional intensity and not take it personal. Immature adults take things personal, right? And so we're going to talk about, you got to be immature and secure, or you can be immature and insecure, or mature and insecure. Let's take a look at these first. Immaturity versus maturity. Immature people are driven by impulses, urges, and appetites. Where mature people are self-controlled in spite of how they feel. They're able to regulate that lower order emotional brain, where immature adults are dictated by those primal urges, those feelings. Immature people give no thought to consequences. They just act. They're risk-taking and rule-breaking. They want adult power and privilege without adult responsibility. Mature people understand there are consequences, not just to them, but to others, and they care. Thus, they regulate themselves. Immature people blame shift and expect others to be responsible, whereas mature people assume responsibility for their actions. Responsibility. They don't blame people. And lastly, immature people are self-centered and they use other people. When mature people are able to live beyond themselves to serve others. Think about the people. Think about yourself right now. Now, let's talk about insecurity versus security. Insecure people tend to be driven and anxious, but secure people are at rest. They live within a realm of peace. They are secure within their own identity, their own value, their own worth. Insecure people strive to get a claim, to prove one's value, right? Because they're insecure, so they need to feel better about themselves. So they, out their own horn. Some, sadly, will actually give up and quit functioning. They're secure people are accepting of oneself. They're confident of their value in God and to God. They know they're fearfully and wonderfully made. They understand the value of the psalmist when he says in Psalm 139, "How marvelous are your thoughts of me, O Lord. There's so many I can't count them. They're like the sands of the seashore." They're secure in that. Insecure people are constantly comparing and being coveting. Where secure people are content with one's lot in life. They're always trying for the next thing and next big thing. They're driven not by insecurity, but are driven by excellence. And lastly, insecure people are jealous, controlling, manipulative, and many others. Where secure people are able to bless, affirm, and serve. How do you see yourself? How do you see those that you have friendships with? If you're dating someone, all right, what are you looking for? If you're married to someone, are you secure, immature, or are you insecure and immature? Because however you are in those traits dictates the path of the relationship. So what we're going to do now is take a few minutes and take a look at some personal traits of immature adults. Personal traits of immature adults. So here we go. Immatures think they have it all together instead of admit their weaknesses. If you are in a relationship with these kinds of people, you will always feel a sense of being disconnected. The intimacy is actually built on sharing weaknesses, being vulnerable to each other. Vulnerability leads to is to be vulnerable requires emotional openness, but emotional openness is risk taking. It's vulnerable, and friendships and deep relationships require vulnerability. But if you're in a relationship with these kinds of immatures, you're going to feel disconnected from them on some level. You're going to want that. You're going to try to get a sense of openness and vulnerability from them, but you're not. And if they are, they usually use it in order to manipulate you. You're going to feel one down. You're going to feel like they're here and you're here, right? There's somehow the sense of you feel like, well, they think they're better than me, or you think you're worse than them, right? You're going to feel like you are weaker than you actually are. That's right. When you're in a relationship with immature people, you're going to believe that you're the weaker one, all right? Healthy, mature relationships, we see each other as equals. There's an equal sharing and feelings and thoughts and values. There's equal respect and goodwill. But whenever you get this one down thing, and you're going to feel weaker, all right? If you feel dependent on the strong one, the weaker one thinks that they need the other one to survive. I just can't live without him or her. I need them. That's the sense of dependency. Look, we all are created dependent. We also have to learn independence. We have to learn to be interdependent. Next is anger, hostility, together one. The vulnerable person grows tired of the together one. And lastly, the need to compete to reverse the role. The weaker person feels stuck. His or her role fights to change it. These are some things you can think about as you are moving in a relation with immature. Next, immatures are religious instead of spiritual. I want to do that again. They're religious instead of spiritual. They're really good at throwing out the Bible. They're really good at going to church and doing things. It's Phariseeism. But true spirituality is actually absent from these people. Immatures are defensive instead of open to feedback. I wrote here, the Bible is clear about the need to be able to hear rebuke from others, Matthew 18:15. Confrontation, folks, allows us to learn about ourselves and change the structure. We need to be teachable. When we're defensive, we prove our immaturity. One of the hallmarks of mature people is that they're teachable. They listen. That's why the psalmist says that wise men accept rebuke. Why do wise men accept rebuke? Because they know there's a lot that they don't. David, at the end of Psalm 139, says something interesting in his prayer. In the psalm, he asks the Lord, he says, search me and basically show me my hidden parts, my hidden thoughts, my hidden ways. David is acknowledging that in him there are blind spots. He can't see, but God sees. He's asking God to reveal those to him. Boy, that takes a humble person. Sensitive people don't want to learn those things. Immatures are self-righteous instead of humble. In our relate well work, we tell people to live by 4 words: goodwill, respect, humility, and empathy. This living as a self-righteous person instead of humility. Psychologists call this a not me experience. People have a character structure that doesn't allow them to see realities themselves. What they do is they project those flaws onto others, thus they blame and rationalize, going down. All of that's because I don't want to deal with it. All right. This is an important one. Immatures only apologize instead of change their behavior. Is the famous words of Forrest Gump's mama. Sorry is as sorry does. The Bible calls it godly sorrow produces repentance. Worldly sorrow leads to death. 2 forms of sorrow in the first same verse. One leads to repentance, one leads to death. What's the difference? It's the focus of sorrow. Godly sorrow is sorrow that I feel for the person that I hurt. In other words, the pain is because I hurt you and I don't want to hurt you. So the sorrow that I feel is remorse, pain for the pain that I caused you. And that remorse and pain for the pain I caused you becomes the motivation to never do it again. Thus, I change my behavior. Worldly sorrow will sound like this. Okay, I did it. Would you get over it? All right, so I was wrong. We need to move on. The focus of that sorrow, pain, is on the offender themselves. They're sorry they got caught. All right. Really, a true godly sorrow will recognize the wrong and really want to change because they do not want to be that kind of person. They are motivated by love to not hurt anyone like that again. These are trustworthy people because they are on the road to holiness and change, and their behavior matters. Some other things here about immatures: they avoid working on the problems instead of dealing with them. They don't admit they have problems. They think they can solve them by themselves. They don't submit their life and will to God. They do not confess when they have wronged someone. They do not forgive people they have hurt. They avoid facing relationship problems directly and openly. They don't hunger and thirst for righteousness. They treat others with a lack of empathy, which basically means they send a message, I don't care. They're not open to confrontation from others. They're not in a process of learning and growing. They do not take responsibility for their lives. They blame other people for their problems. And lastly, they don't want to share their problems with others to help them grow. We need to be discipled. There's a multitude, in a multitude of counselors, you're going to find wisdom. It's the one another. We need comfort from one another, encouragement, and support one another. We need people speaking into our lives. Immatures demand trust instead of earn it. You know, I see this a lot with pastoral leaders. Don't question my leadership. I'm the pastor. Do what I tell you. That's going on here in our town in a large church where there's going to be a split here coming pretty soon if, by all measures, or there's a massive amount of people leaving. But the pastor believes he's right because he believes he is God's man saying, and all these people are wrong. Jesus did not demand blind trust. The Lord told the Pharisees, if you don't believe, do not believe me unless I do what my Father says. But if I do it, even though you do not believe me, he's appealing to them. Believe the miracles that you may learn and understand the Father is in me. He's not saying you have to just follow me blindly. He never says that. He appeals to you. Look, you know, can't believe what I say. Can you at least watch what I do? Trust that. He appeals to you. Right? He's all about reasoning. And here's one thing I've learned. People who are trustworthy are not bothered when their trustability is questioned. People who get defensive when their trustability are questioned aren't trustworthy. To the trustworthy person, if you question their trustworthiness, they tend to go, wait a minute, you don't trust me? You say, no. What did I do to send you that message? Because I'm going to fix it right here, right now. Why? Because they're trustworthy. People aren't trustworthy. They don't like it. All right? Next, immatures believe they are perfect instead of their faults. They blame others instead of taking responsibility. They lie instead of tell the truth. And lastly, immatures are stagnant instead of growing. Folks, life is about growth. You're the same person you are that you were 20 years ago. You haven't grown. Life is about maturing, and we're to mature in love. To mature in love is a lifelong process. But I am more mature today than I was 10 years ago, than I was 20 years ago, than I was 30 years ago. And I'm grateful for that. And my goal is to be more mature in 10 years from now. All right. Always grow. You grow by reading. You grow by getting input. You grow by more self-awareness. You grow by understanding who you are and how you come across. All of those things. All right. So we just looked at our personal traits of immature. Now we're going to look at the relational traits, or what we call interpersonal traits, of these unsafe, immature people. Let's take a look at those now. Immatures avoid closeness instead of want to connect. Man was created for connectedness. You can go watch our of Us video, or the video I have on the Caress Your Marriage, Caress Your Relationship. All right, all humans are created for connection. Biology proves this. The brain has to bond to other people. All right, and an intimate, healthy, connected relationship with God and others and self. The thing, the great commandment. All right. If you're uneasy about a relationship, ask yourself this question: does this relationship breed more togetherness, more isolation? In other words, as you're in a relationship with these people, ask yourself this question: the longer I'm in a relationship with this person, do I become more intimate or become more disconnected? Do I become more healthy, more unhealthy? Or as Lori Gordon said to me once a long time ago, Rick, you can be a healing energy to love, or you can be an invoking energy. You could be someone who, in her every interaction with her, she feels loved and valued, or she feels unloved and unvalued. If the majority of a person's behavior with you is that you feel unloved and unvalued, particularly in conflict, you may not be in a healthy relationship with that person, right? Now, what's my note here? Check yourself first. Your sense of attachment may be because of you, all right? And it could also be because of both of you. This is why we need a good sense of healthy self-awareness, all right? Now, immature is only concerned about the I instead of we, all right? Living for I is easy. It's primal. It requires no thought. Its animal comes from this lower order brain. Living from we is higher order brain function. Prefrontal cortex requires regulation of the lower order brain so that you can be angry and sin not. So you can be slow to anger, quick to hear, slow to speak. That verse focuses on listening, not talking. Talking is about I. Listening is about we. Unsafe people are self-centered, whereas safe people are relationship-centered. And that priority shows itself in the awful negative. And I care about you. I care how you feel. I care how you think. People who are caring, empathic, never send a message, you don't care. Look, folks, the worst message into any relationship is a message, I don't care. You send that message enough, they're going to figure out you don't care. They're going to walk out of your life, and you created it. It's living for the us. We talk about in our work the power of us. It takes two to make an us and only one to kill it. Mature people know how to live for us. Immature people live for themselves. Immatures resist freedom instead of encourage it. In other words, ask yourself this question: what does this person do when I say no? Do they respect your no? Do they try and manipulate around your no? Do they squash your no? Because see, love protects the separateness of each other. When you say no, you're declaring your separateness. When you say no, you're declaring your individuality. When you say no, you're declaring who you are apart from the relationship. And love protects the separateness. You see, when we are in a relationship, the we is still you and me. A safe connection involves two people trusting, opening up, and being honest with each other. All right? Now, separateness is the ability to maintain spiritual and emotional harmony. These are called boundaries. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but boundaries are essential for healthy relationships. And I'm really going to encourage you to get the book Boundaries by Dr. Cloud Townsend. Not read that book. You understand this in depth. All right. What are some things to look for? All right. I have iPad started to talk on me here. What are the things to look for? Do they respect my no when I state it? Do they withdraw emotionally when I tell them no? Do they get hurt and safe? Make me feel guilty when I say no? Do they have a life separate from me? Do they encourage me to have a separate life too? Those are some things to look for, because you have to have your own freedom to be your own person. Next, immatures flatter us instead of confront us. Safe relations are not just about trust, support, and sharing. They're also about truth, and honesty. God uses people not only to nurture us, but also to open our eyes to sin, selfishness, and denialness. Love also means saying, I hold this, as Jesus did when he confronted the churches in Revelation. You see, if you're a safe person, if you're a mature person, you understand that it's okay to be confronted. Next, immatures are unstable over time. Here are some questions to ask. Are they living up to their commitments to me? Are they here for me only when I am here? Do they tell me no when they don't have time? Do they make promises they don't keep? Am I the last in a string of broken relationships? And did others warn me about their pattern? Folks, love is abiding, timeless, and unchanging, just like its author. Find people who love you and love you well over time, like Jesus. Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. You got it? Immatures are a negative influence on us rather than a positive one. Safe people are not perfect, but they do help us progress toward the character. No one is allowed to be perfect in this world. The world is not perfect. It's possibly perfect. However, we are called to be mature. Mature to be mature in love. You can have a head full of knowledge of the Bible, Hebrew and Greek, but still be immature in love. We are called mature in love. The whole heart of Scripture is to mature us in love. So ask yourself these three questions: Am I a loving person, or am I more detached? I've been in a relationship with this person. Am I more honest, or am I more compliant? Am I more forgiving or more idealistic? Am I more mutual or more childish? Some things to think about as you relate to this person. What kind of influence are they having on you? Immatures gossip instead of keep secrets. This is about triangulation. Triangulation, you have three people, and two are in conflict. And when two are in conflict, the power balance is unstable because and what happens every single time when a dyad, a two-part system, B, are in trouble, they'll reach out to a third part, align themselves against the other person, also to bring that third person into the conflict. The attempt to bring a third person into the conflict is called triangulation. All right. And this is what gossip does. It brings other people into conflict so you can feel better about you. You can talk about them. All right. And here are some statements of triangulators. Well, it just slipped out. It wasn't that serious. You'll react. It was for their own good. They made me tell. That's stuff like that. It's actually immature. Immatures condemn us instead of forgive. Safe relationships are centered and grounded in forgiveness. People who forgive can and should also be people who confront. Someone willingly to lovingly confront should draw you near to them, though it may hurt to hear what they have to say. Unsafe people are unforgiving. What they do is they focus on your won't let go of them, even when you have confessed, repented, and made restitution. They use weaknesses to avoid looking at theirs. They view you as being morally inferior to them. They desire justice more. You see, folks, this is the destructive nature of immature people on you and the relationships. And you get to decide how you want to live your life. You want to be a healthy, mature adult? If you do, you'll have self-respect. You're going to have a healthy sense of self-esteem. You're going to treat people with goodwill and empathy and respect, and you're living humility because you understand to live that way forces you to become a mature person. Same time, you also stand up against people who disrespect you, who mistreat you, who manipulate you. You have the ability to say, no, you won't talk to me. Now, immature people won't like it when you stand up for yourself, but you have to, because you cannot love another unless you love yourself. And the best way to increase your self-love is understand your identity in Christ. That Abba Father sent his biological son to die for you. Why? Because he cherishes you, because he values you, because you're good enough, because you matter. I could go on. You get to decide how you want to live, and you get to decide the relationship you're in. If you're in a relationship with someone who has the bulk of these traits, I would tell you this: love is not a reason to marry. So if you're single and dating and you're with one of these people, you can say no. I don't need this in my life, and I don't need to marry this either. Get out of that relation. You might go, what if they change? What if they do change? What if they don't? I don't live in what ifs, folks. Here's why. What if an alien comes down? What if a nuclear bomb goes off today? The what ifs are things that aren't based in reality. They're really fear-based questions. I'd rather live in what is. Is. What was not is. What was already was. Excuse me, what was used to be what is. It's not what is now. It's just what was. What is, isn't what will be, because what will be isn't here yet and may never be. In a sense, learn to live in the present, learn to deal with what you do have. If you're married to someone like this and they're not teachable, go get help. You don't have to live this way. You have the right to say, no, I'm not being treated this way anymore. I respect myself enough to say, no, I love me and I can have boundaries as well. This is Dr. Rick Marks. Hope this webinar has been helpful for you and maybe give you an insight into what healthy, mature people really want. I really do thank some of the great teachers out there like John Burnett, Les Parrott, Lori Gordon, David Ferguson, and others who've had a wonderful impact on my life through their teaching, and some of them interpersonally, because some of those folks I mentioned are really good friends. So blessings to you. Have yourself a blessed